But there were new philosophies also being taught here in Corinth. A prevailing philosophy must have been that of Plato. You see, Plato and his teacher Socrates taught that we are innately immortal. They believed in a special dualism, that the body was bad, but the soul was good. That matter was bad, but spirit was good. They taught this dualism, and they believed that when you died, your soul was released from the prison house of this body, that it was released to travel to a higher plane. They taught that indeed death comes upon all, but it is not to be feared, for you will be released to a higher plane of existence upon death. Certainly this would have been a prevailing philosophy here in the city. The city also had trade with Egypt. The Greeks had established themselves in Egypt. And certainly the Egyptian philosophy of death would have been widespread in a city like Corinth, a port city with much traffic down to Alexandria. The Egyptians, with their belief in the afterlife, revolved around the Ka and the Ba. They believed at death the deified soul would be released, this immortal soul would be released, and that it would wander aimlessly until it was able to recognize the body of the deceased. Once it recognized the body, it could come back and be there. This is why the Egyptians mummified their dead. This is why they carved representations into their caskets. In addition, there would have been the Persian or Oriental influences here in the city of Corinth. We see the influence that is manifested in the shaft tombs there in Palmyra in Syria. They too believed in the dualism between the body and the soul. They too believed that at death the soul was released from the body to ascend to higher planes. Yes, the common thread uniting both Platonic philosophy and Egyptian mysticism and Persian dualism was the idea of the innate immortality of the human being. The idea that at death the soul was released to ascend to a higher plane. Paul came to the city and he was confronted by two major attitudes toward death. One was a sense of hopelessness, a sense that there was nothing beyond the grave, that it was an endless night without a morning. We see it reflected in the pagan epitaphs that have been discovered in the catacombs of Rome. Goodbye, my mother, I'll never see you again. Farewell, my darling, I'll never see you again. There was a sense of hopelessness and despair. But he would have also encountered Platonic philosophy and Egyptian mysticism and Persian dualism with their belief that there was something beyond the grave, that the soul ascended to a higher plane. Paul was confronted by these various philosophies in the city of Corinth, but he was not affected by them, for his mind was filled with the Hebrew Scriptures. He was a Jew from Tarsus, a Greek city that was a center of Greek philosophy. But Paul had not been infected with Greek philosophy. He was a Jew and his mind was filled with the teachings of the Hebrew Scriptures. Tarsus was on the edge, the frontier of the Orient, but he was not infected with the ideas of Persian mysticism and dualism. Paul did not believe in the innate immortality of man. He did not believe that when you died, your body went to dust and your soul, your immortal soul, went off to some other existence. Paul was arrested, and when he was brought before the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, he said in Acts 23, verse 6, "My brothers, I am a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee, and I stand on trial because of my hope in the resurrection of the dead."